千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. As always, I want to extend my welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we are ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. So we can dig into the metaphor in this fashion. We can look at the blade and we can state that the blade being sharpened represents a person undergoing mental or physical training, as we discussed. A sharper, more effective blade means sharper mind, a more effective body, like faster reflexes, sharper reflexes. And overall, when someone is in good condition, there is a sharp crispness about his actions, his words, his demeanor. Now, what happens when the sharpening is done to excess? Well, we know the sharpness of the blade is reflected in the harshness of the overly critical mind. This is the other part of it. This is when we talk about how the sharpness of the blade will inadvertently cut people, maybe by accident. It is reflected in a mind that has become much too harsh, much too critical. And there's another aspect of it, the part that is easily damaged. The brittleness of the blade is reflected in the brittleness of personality. So let me ask everyone to pay attention to this and think about life situations where you have encountered this kind of personality. The personality that is always negative and critical, that always has a cutting remark about someone or something. That person, that personality has a brittleness because that person can be easily offended. That person may get angry rather easily because of the offensive, the perceived offensive remarks or situations. And that person is not someone that others will find easy to get along with. Let's continue. So, excessive sharpness represents arrogant mind as well. So the person who is overly critical, well, there's arrogance associated with that. We can see this quite easily. So this is where we connect the metaphor with the overflowing cup. The cup that overflows is overflowing with self-importance, self-important concepts. It's all about me. The overly sharpened mind, the critical person, the person who always has cutting remarks, cutting criticism for other people, that is another manifestation of arrogance. Like, I know more than you, I am better than you, that type of arrogance. The difference in this metaphor is in terms of scrutiny and criticism, because the teacup doesn't get into that. It's just talking about making a mess with the tea or water spilling over onto the desk, splashing everyone, causing people to take a step back. Here, it's going into the sharp and harsh scrutiny of everything, the sharp and harsh criticism of everything. Sharpness maps to harshness. So just as a sharp blade cuts and causes physical damage, A sharp critique can hurt someone's feelings or cause anger. It can trigger someone. That person is, none too pleased with the sharp critique and flies off the handle. So this is a link, as you can see here, linking arrogance to an unforgiving personality. So the overly sharp blade is a negative thing in the Tao. You know that naturally people wish to avoid someone like that. Someone who's always complaining, always being negative, always pointing out flaws all the time in everything. Now, we talked about how because the Tao is eternal, to be lasting is to be more in tune with the Tao. It is no accident, therefore, that the arrogant person, just like the cup that overflows or the blade that is sharpened to the point of being brittle, this arrogant person is not someone who lasts. Indeed, one can say life is lonely and miserable for such a person. People are turned off by arrogance. Community is essential for happiness and longevity. So it makes a lot of sense that we want to be humble. We ourselves feel turned off by someone else's arrogance. We do not want to be someone like that who turns everybody off, who causes everybody to take a step back, who causes damage to other people intentionally or not. Happiness for us means being part of a community. It doesn't mean we cannot criticize anybody. It just means that we have to do so in a way that is aligned with the Tao, constructively, helpfully. Now, that seems rather simple, but let me just point out there's any number of times that you and I will witness people who are expressing a criticism not to help, not to make things better, but to express their superiority. Have you seen that? I definitely have. And it is a certainty for me that I never, ever want to become like that. So we are now approaching the top of the hour. We are done talking about the metaphor for the blade that is being sharpened. This is a good point at which to pause the presentation to be resumed next time. The next metaphor that we'll talk about has to do with material things. So the advice from Lao Tzu to us takes the form of 3 metaphors, and we have covered 2 out of 3. The first one is that we want to hold the cup that is not overfilled, metaphorically speaking. We want to enjoy the tea that has been poured into it, again, metaphorically speaking. And it is important for us to enjoy the tea because it creates more of an opening, more space within the cup to receive more tea, fresh, hot tea. So metaphorically, it is clear what we have to do when it comes to learning about the Tao and applying the Tao to real life. Number 2, the metaphor that we have just talked about is to wield the knife, the blade that is not too sharp, that has not been overly sharpened to the point of brittleness. This is because we want to use the knife, which I like to remind everybody, the knife is metaphorical for the mind and the body. We want to use our physical selves, our mental aspects as a tool for the intended purpose. The knife, the blade is a tool. We want to avoid sharpening it too much. which means the mind becomes too harsh, too critical, too negative. And finally, as a preview for next time, the third metaphor that Lao Tzu will use is the room that is full of treasures. Now, of course, typically you and I will think of a room that is full of treasures as a positive thing. In Western culture, that's what we are taught, that we want to accumulate a lot of material possessions. Lao Tzu points out that anything done to excess can be a bad thing, including the accumulation of material things in this room. When you have too much, you begin to worry about some kind of loss, some kind of damage. So the point that we're going to talk about next time and emphasize is that in the Tao, one can acquire wealth without going overboard. And I want to emphasize that because there's any number of spiritual traditions that would actually highlight some sort of a very Spartan existence or poverty as a virtue. Not in the Tao. In the Tao, prosperity is a good thing. Abundance is a good thing. It is to be enjoyed. Life is to be enjoyed. But everything in moderation, we don't want to do any of that in excess. It just makes sense. And then finally, the last bullet there, we want to liberate ourselves from the worry of having too much. And that's because when we possess excessive material things, that is always one of the prices that we must pay. That we become ever more concerned about the possibility of loss. Therefore, we take measures to protect it, and we still have increasing anxiety about losing any or part of it. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.